I don't even know if I want to ask this question, but what percent of Wall Street analysts covering Tesla does he believe actually understand Tesla? Emphasis on understand.
Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So Rob Maurer over at Tesla Daily recently interviewed Alex Potter from Piper Sandler, one of the firms on Wall Street who I believe have a pretty good grasp on Tesla. There's a link in the description to the full interview. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Rob is absolutely killing it with these in-depth interviews. It's giving us some amazing insight and kind of bridging the gap between Wall Street and the retail investor. So keep them coming, Rob. In this video, I'm focusing on just one question: whether or not Alex believes that Wall Street analysts in general actually understand Tesla. So let's get into the video. But first, hey guys, if you live in the US and would like up to 2 free stocks valued up to $1,600 each, use the link in the description to WeBull and deposit $100 in your account. Each of these stocks will be a minimum of $8 in value, so if you suck at math, that is a 16% ROI on $100. Not bad. And if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it. Piper Sandler have a $515 price target on Tesla stock at the moment, on the higher end of Wall Street, but in my opinion, still pretty conservative in the scheme of things. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how that goes, but I just wanted to put that out there. And of course, let's bring up the analyst profile on TipRanks just to see how much credibility does Alex Potter have. Alright, so here we are on tipranks.com and, oh wait, sorry guys, I automatically went to my favorite analyst profile. Sorry, just habit. My mistake. Hang on, let's fix this. There we go, much better. So, Alexander Potter, Piper Sandler, ranked 325 out of 7,019 analysts. Translation: this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about, at least in general. And just for some contrast for the spectrum of competence to incompetence on the Wall Street analysts, at least on TipRanks, just to refresh your memory, in case you missed it initially, here's somebody who's on the other end of that competence spectrum. So, Alex Potter, worth listening to what he's got to say in general. So let's get into the video.
You can pass on that if you want.
I don't know. Like, this is a tricky question because there are people who work in Tesla who don't understand Tesla, right? Like, I think truly knowing a company, like really, really knowing all of the ins and outs of it is a hard thing to do, especially if you're a sell side analyst, you're an investor. Like, nobody, like, Rob studies Tesla every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Multiple hours a day for 7 years. Like, I put 10,000 hours into just researching Tesla as a company.
And there are still massive chunks of the company where Rob's going to look at it and be like,
Yeah. I mean, energy, HVAC, I know a little bit, obviously, surface level stuff, but not the details.
Which is still, going to be orders of magnitude better than, your average schmuck on the street.
He said it. Well played, Alex. Now, I actually have to confess, I was the person who asked this question of Rob to ask to Alex on the live stream. I thought it'd be a great insight because I was really curious to know. I respect Alex a lot. I think the research that Piper Sandler does is pretty on point. Now, he makes some excellent points, especially about Rob, who I think probably knows more about Tesla than anyone else on YouTube. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. Rob's really gone deep, so have I, on the company, and even I admit I don't understand everything that's going on there. I have a far better picture in my mind, I think, than most Wall Street analysts, but as Alex is saying, that's probably not a huge achievement. Now, this isn't to rip on Wall Street, it's just Tesla is an extremely complicated and new style of business. We have not seen something like this before, so we can't just map our understanding, oh, this is exactly like this company, this is exactly like this technology, because it's not. In addition to all the newness and complexity, Tesla is moving at such a fast pace that it's very difficult for people to keep up with what's going on. So I don't want to be here to disparage Wall Street analysts in general, but I thought asking this question would be a great way to get some insight into what Alex, in my opinion, one of the more competent Wall Street analysts covering Tesla, thinks about other analysts, their understanding of Tesla, etc. So let's continue.
So, it's a spectrum. I'm sure that there's lots of different competing interests and ways for sell-side analysts to spend their time, and a lot of different ways for people to add value. Even if you don't know the first thing about Tesla, it doesn't mean you aren't going to be useful in some way, shape, or form. There are a lot of companies that I've covered through the years that I would not be, I wouldn't want you to hold me to every single number in the model, but especially on the China stuff, like if I would come back from China and I would have just gotten done speaking to competitors of that company or suppliers to that company or customers of that company, even if my thesis on the stock is completely off the mark and I don't understand 80% of what the company does, if I really have that 20% in China on lockdown or whatever it is, then I can still be useful to the investor.
This is a fantastic point from Alex. I completely agree. This is one of the reasons why I love the way that ARK Invest bring multiple analysts together to work on the one stock with different expertise and technological understanding so they can paint a more comprehensive picture. And this is also why I follow hundreds of Twitter users from around the world sharing their insights, their perspective and their opinions on Tesla. It's why I watch dozens of YouTubers sharing their analysis, their thoughts and their insights. It's why I follow all of the mainstream finance media coverage. My goal is just to be a gigantic sponge and take on as much information as I possibly can. It doesn't mean I blindly believe like a sheep. I'm not that dumb. But what it does allow is for me to gain new perspectives and insights and ways of looking at things that I may not have originally considered. And I know there's a great variety of people who watch this channel. And I'm sure there's a subset of people who literally rely on just me or just one or two other sources for Tesla info. This is a good starting point, but it is nowhere near enough if you expect to have a comprehensive understanding of the company. So please, if that's you, if you watch Tesla Daily, Solving the Money Problem, Hyperchange, and maybe one or two other channels here and there, and that's the extent of your research into Tesla stock, be mindful, all you're seeing is a tiny tip of the iceberg and nothing below the surface. See, it's very difficult to convey in a YouTube video hundreds, thousands of hours of research and analysis. You kind of just get the end result. Here's my conclusion, and here's a little bit of the stuff that I did and thought along the way, but you really don't get to see all of the comprehensive research, the analysis, the perspective, and the insight. It's just a problem with the format. Nobody's going to sit through a 45-hour-long video just on one component of Tesla's business.
So, I think there's, it's a hard, the other thing that makes it really hard on Tesla is they're not like a plain vanilla company that just makes widgets and sells them, and you multiply the number of widgets they sell by the price and then apply a margin assumption. Like, there's so many different giant markets that they're going to try to go into, so many different moving pieces. But that's part of the appeal, right? Like, you want it to be complicated, and you want it to be dynamic and interesting. Otherwise, it's boring. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. Well, I think I have a couple points on that. So the first, which we've talked about before, I think retail analysts tend to overemphasize the importance of the price target from analysts and underemphasize the research component.
This is a fantastic point from Rob. Far too many people, I think, fixate and focus on the price target versus, again, the tip of the iceberg analogy, all the research underneath that price target. For example, JP Moran recently upgraded their Tesla stock price target to a whopping $75 per share. Now, some people might just laugh at that and go, what a bunch of idiots. But it's better to dig beneath the surface and try to understand why did they draw that conclusion. Well, here's a really interesting point of data. They're estimating that in 2022, as in 2 years from now, full year finished, Tesla is going to deliver about 768,000 vehicles. I think, just going from memory, someone fact check me, it's approximately that amount. Now, this to me is a pretty clear indicator that JP Moran literally have no fucking idea what they are talking about. Okay? All one need to do is look at Tesla's production capacity, their announced production capacity, the factories that they are building, the pace that they are able to build factories and ramp products, and extrapolate from there. And you'll find this figure is going to be far closer to 1 million than 750,000 vehicles. That figure for 2022 that JP Moran is so confident in, this is part of the reason why they've got their $75 price target on Tesla, that's likely to be about how many vehicles Tesla delivers in 2021. Mark my words. Now, some of you might argue, Stephen, isn't that a bit preemptively dismissive? Just because you don't agree with their delivery estimates for 2 years out doesn't mean you dismiss everything, right? Shouldn't you look at more of their research to really understand their valuation model? But here's the thing. I completely disagree in this instance. Why? Because deliveries is such a fundamentally important metric. It is their primary revenue source. Vehicles, this is what your entire valuation should currently be shaped around, because that's what's bringing in the revenues and the profits for Tesla. If you can't get something this fundamentally important right, this is why I'm referring to them as JP Moran. I have absolutely no respect for this analysis whatsoever. It's nothing personal, but it's just mind-boggling that they can possibly come up with this number. Have they looked at Tesla's production capacity? Have they looked at the fact that Tesla sells every vehicle they make? Have they looked at the fact that Tesla continues to drive costs down and therefore prices down, and there's no end in sight? Have they thought about any of this? Have they looked at Tesla's current factories under construction? Berlin, Austin. Have they looked at how quickly they were able to build Gigafactory Shanghai? Have they looked at how quickly they are currently building Berlin and Austin? Have they then thought, wait a minute, let's do some counting. Oh, wait a minute. They'll definitely deliver more cars than that. They haven't even done this. So therefore, I decide these guys' opinion completely fucking useless in the bin. Maybe this will change in the future. And I'm so passionate about this subject because some people, they pay a lot of credence. Oh, that's a very respectable name. Yeah, they downgraded $75. Oh, maybe I'm not going to buy Tesla stock. That's a bit scary. I have no respect for this because it's fucking garbage research. Anyway, the point here was that you do need to go beneath the surface, sometimes far deeper than others. In this case, I didn't need to do a whole lot of digging before I realized they have no idea what they're talking about and they do not deserve my attention nor my respect.
Valuation is a tricky thing. Price targets are a tricky thing. Different firms, I guess, have different time horizon.
Right, like some literally only model Tesla for 2 years. Which is mind-blowing to me.
Dude, it is far beyond mind-blowing. Can you imagine being a stock analyst, analyzing an extremely fast-growing company that's disruptive, that's innovative, that's building factories, that's got a really long roadmap over the next decade? Can you imagine only analyzing that stock over the next couple of years? Now look, it's nothing personal, I don't mean to be rude here, but I have a major problem with people who aren't competent for a role being in that role. I have an aversion to incompetence. I'd much rather people shut the fuck up when they don't know what they're talking about, or at the very least, preface by saying, hey guys, I probably don't know what I'm talking about. I have a low level of confidence in this opinion, this position, my belief, but here's what I think and here's why. That's a much better approach. Here's an analogy. Imagine an extremely unsafe driver who's so dangerous they're likely to kill people when they get behind the wheel of a car. I would prefer those people recognize their incompetence when it comes to driving a vehicle and voluntarily abstain from driving vehicles so they don't kill people behind the wheel of one. Or at the very least, maybe they have a big gigantic warning sign like the person prefacing by saying, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Maybe this extremely unsafe driver has special big inflatable bumper bars and airbags all over their thing and flashing warning signs saying this person's a shithouse driver, please be careful, they might kill you, that kind of thing at the very least. The same thing here. I have an aversion to incompetence. It just really does my head in. It's like, I'm okay with people being unsure and learning and getting a good understanding of something. Of course, that's the process of learning. You're going to be wrong before you're right. But the problem that I have is when you're in a position of authority, that gives you assumed competence when you may not actually have it. I'm not down with that. And I think also there should just be enough self-awareness for people to say, look, I don't really know what I'm talking about here, but I'll let you know what I think. But yeah, I still don't really know. I'm not that confident in what I believe, so take it with a grain of salt.
And they'll base it on, a multiple of the out year or whatever. Some people will explicitly, like one of the approaches that we took in the past is you'd be like, okay, well, there's huge chunks of the business that we don't know what to do with, and we still don't. And we're not going to attach an arbitrary value, an arbitrary non-zero value to a part of the business that I can't defend. So rather than do that, I'll assume it is zero and determine whether I can buy the stock at the valuation today based on a defensible model of the parts of the business that I do understand. And if the answer is yes, then whether I understand that other part of the business or not is immaterial because I still think this part of the business is worth owning.
This is a very insightful point, and I think also a fair one. Most of the Wall Street analysts out there, maybe some exceptions like ARK Invest, who have a bit more of a probabilistical valuation on Tesla stock. What's the probability of achieving full self-driving? What's the probability of this, that kind of thing? But in general, I think it makes sense. A Wall Street analyst isn't going to include a part of the business that they can't defend, that there's not enough information on, etc. But I think the wider stock market has actually recognized a lot of the potential here in things like autonomy and other bits and pieces. And I think that's why a lot of the analysts have actually been chasing after Tesla's stock price, because the market itself recognized and factored in some of those less tangible, a little bit more uncertain, further out into the future components of Tesla's business, elements of which many of the analysts were like, look, I don't know enough about it, so I'm just going to ignore that component completely.
And you can base your price target on that. And, so there's, I don't know, but generally speaking, that's true. The price target stuff is tricky and it's moving. I mean, our price target has been changing constantly over the last several years on Tesla, and it's always higher than whatever it is at that time. But I suppose in hindsight, we should have just gone straight to the price target that it is today, back then.
which is really the approach of ARK Invest. So I hope you guys have found this video insightful. There's a link in the description to the full interview. I highly recommend you guys check it out. As I've said many times, I love these insights, these long form interviews that Tesla Daily are doing from the Wall Street side of things, helping to bridge that gap with retail investors. And this is a great way for everybody to learn more. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I really do hope you guys aren't just relying on one or two sources of information for your insight and understanding around Tesla. These are great places to start. This person thinks this, they say that they believe this because of this reason, then go check, verify. That's how you learn about this and gain confidence in your own position on the company. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan, this is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget your free stocks with WeBull and stake using the links below. Open a new WeBull account, deposit $100 and you'll get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,600. And stake, spin the roulette wheel, you'll either get Nike, GoPro or Dropbox. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.